and welcome to another episode. As promised, I am coming back to finish our CSS course. So in today's video, I am going to be teaching you how to add multiple columns using CSS. But before we get started, if you are new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also make sure to activate the notifications ring bell. That way you will get notified every time that I upload a video. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Okay, so let's get started. To get started, we need to go to the same website we've been using so far, which is w3schools.com. You're gonna jump into the CSS section. You will go to CSS Advanced and you will search for something called CSS Multiple Columns. Okay, now in addition to this, I have open here the same website we have been working so far with, and I also have Visual Studio Code here open. Okay, so first and foremost, let's make sure to clean the body section here. I am going to clean this out, okay, and I'm also going to clean the style out in here. Okay, those two things. Make sure to hit Ctrl+S to save this in both files. And I am going to refresh now my welcome page here. Okay, so now we have a clean website that we can work with today. So going back to the W3 School website, what is CSS multiple columns? As easy for me to explain you this is a layout, we can say. It's a property that is going to help you to control the website layout, okay? And it's going to allow you to divide a paragraph in multiple columns, same as how they do right now, or they used to do a lot in the newspapers, okay, in magazines. So that's exactly what you're going to use this property for. Now, let me show you the example here. As you can see, this is a column, this is another column, and this is another column. So this is exactly why the property multi-column is used for. So I'm going to explain to you a couple of properties in here. We have the property column count, then we have the property column gap, rule style, width, color, rule, span, and width. Those are the ones that we're going to take a look at today, and you are going to be able to play around with this while I am teaching you how to use this property, okay? So let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit. And the first one we're going to be talking about is the column count, okay? So what you do with the column count property is simply specify the number of columns that you're going to have into an element, okay? So let me give you an example right now. Let's go back to our code. Right now our body section is empty. So what I'm going to do is add a div, okay? Let's add a div. And inside of this div, I am simply going to add some paragraph, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is copy this, and I will insert this 2 times more. So let's hit save. Going back to our welcome page, let's hit refresh. So as you can see, we have now 3 paragraphs here, right? Inside of those divisions. So why are we going to be using this column count property? Very simple. If you want one of those paragraphs to look the way it looks up here, you have to use this property, okay? So let's go ahead and try it out with 2 of our paragraphs. So let's give a class to this division, and let's give a class of, I don't know, let's call it example 1. Okay, and then obviously we're going to make a class for the other 2. This one is going to be example 2, and this one will be with a class of example 3. Okay, so now we have a class for each division. Let's go back here into our style.css file, and let's use example 1. Okay, so for example 1, I am going to use the column count property. Okay, so column count, and in here we're going to set the first example, the first division is going to be in 2 columns, okay? So now we're gonna hit save. Going back to our welcome page, let's hit refresh. Now, as you can see, you might not be able to look this, you know, like a lot, but the first paragraph, it already changed. It's different than the other 2. Now, if you want, what I can do is to all divisions, let's just give them some, you know what, let's just do a background color of, let's do this one blue. Okay, and to example 2, we are going to set up a background color. Let's do this one pink, and then the last one, which is going to be example 3, we're going to give it a background color as well. And this one is going to be, I don't know, let's just choose any color. Let's use brown, okay? There you go. So let's hit save, going back to our code, hit refresh, boom. Now you have the 3 divisions with different type of colors so that we can differentiate each one of them. So as you can see, the first paragraph that we just added a column count of 2 has been divided already. Now let's go ahead and let's use the column count for the second example, okay? And in this example, let's just set up the column count to 3. Okay, let's hit save here and let's hit refresh. Now you see 1, 2, and then it has 3. Okay, so now let's go ahead and use the third example, and I am going to use the column count, and let's set this up to 6 so that you can see how this will work. Okay, let's hit refresh. And there you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Now, as you can see, the 6th column doesn't have any text because obviously this paragraph is not big enough. If we were to have more text into that paragraph, probably we will see that in there. So let's do the following. What I am going to do is add more text to the third paragraph so that you can see what I'm talking about. In fact, let's go ahead and let's add more text. Let's just make sure that you can see this example real good. Okay, let me just do more text, maybe one more. Okay, so let's hit save, and then for the last paragraph, which is this one right here, you're gonna see more text now. So let's hit refresh, and there you go. So now we have 6 columns. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So simple as that. You use the column count property to add the number of columns that you want to add into your layout, okay? So moving on, let's go to the next one, and that will be column gap. Now this one is also very important. Why? Because you want to establish the gap between one column and the other. You see right now, this is the gap that you have between one another, this tiny space right here, and then this space right here, and then this space right here. So the column gap is the gap that you have within between one column and the other, okay? So let's go ahead and let's use that property so that you can see what am I referring to. So going back to the multiple columns, we're going to scroll a little bit down, and we will see the column gap property here, and you will see an example. Now, I'm not going to hit try it yourself. You can do that if you want, so that you can see how W3 schools will teach you, you know, the example, but I'll do it here. So to the first division, that's the example 1 division, we're going to set up a column gap of probably 10 to 20 pixels, just so that you can see the difference, okay? So let's do here, column gap, okay? And now here, let's do, in fact, you know what? Let's do 100 pixels to the first one. Okay, so now let's hit save, going back to our code, hit refresh, and you see how that moved? Because now it has more gap, one column within the other, right? So there's more space from here to here. Now let's use the same property to the next example. So the column gap here is going to be, let's assign here, same 100 pixels to the 3 columns that you have here. So we're gonna hit save, okay? Control S, and then going back here, we're gonna hit refresh. Now take a look at the space right now, 1, 2, and this is the third one. Take a look at the space. Now when I hit refresh, it's gonna have 100 pixels of space. So let's do that. There you go. You see, it's now 100 pixels. And we're going to do the same thing for the third example, just so you can see how the 6 columns will be spaced between each others, okay? So the column count, then we're gonna use column gap, and we're gonna say 100 pixels to the third example as well. Control S to save it, and then refresh. Boom, you see? Everything rearranges so that you can see better the text inside of it. We haven't played yet with the width of the column, so for now, I just want you to see how the column gap is given space between one column and the other. So I hope this clarifies how to use that property. If it doesn't, you can leave your questions down in the comments, and I will make sure to reply as soon as I can. Okay, so going back here, the next property that we have is column rule style. And then we're gonna see rule width, rule color, then just rule, and then the span, and then the width to wrap things up with the multi-column properties. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll a little bit down, and then here we have the column rules. Okay, so this column rules, it's pretty much just to specify what type of rule you want to use between one column and the other, because yes, you can add rules between one column and the other. So let me show you how to do that. We're going to be using the first thing, which is the column rule style, okay? And in the example here, they have set this up as solid. So going back here to our code, to the first example, let's go to the page. We don't have any rule right now between one column and the other. So let's add that right now here. So the first example is going to have a column rule, okay, and is going to have a style, okay. And you see how Visual Studio Code gives you different type of styles that you can give to your rule. It could be dashed, it could be dotted, groove, hidden, etc. So for this example, we're going to use the solid, okay? And I'm going to hit save. Going back to our page, I'm going to hit now refresh. And you see now this line right here, this is the rule that we just added with the property column rule style, because the style of this rule is solid. Now we can change that on the next example, and we can add a column rule style as dotted, okay? If you use that, you hit save, refresh. Now you see we have added 2 dotted rules between one column and the other. And then finally, just to show you a third example, let's use the column rule style with, let's make double. Okay, so let's hit save, hit refresh, and boom, you see? Now you cannot see this right now much, so I'm going to zoom my screen and scroll a little bit down. But there are 2 lines there. That's why it's called double. This rule has 2 lines, okay? So let's go back to the normal zoom, and there you go. Okay. Okay, so that's what you can do with the column rule style property. Now the next one that you will see is the width. You want to assign a width to your rule. So if we go ahead and let's say that we want to add a column rule width to the first one, which is solid, and let's say that we want to make that 10 pixels, I'm gonna hit save, going back to our code, refresh, you see now the width is 10 pixels. It's no longer the default width that we used to see before. So that's what the column rule width will do. Same thing if we use it on the other two examples. If we assign a column width to the second example of, I don't know, let's say 20 pixels. Hit refresh. And you see how big the dots are. They look terrible. But let me change that right now. Let's just put something a little bit more normal. Let's do 5 pixels. Let's hit save and then let's hit refresh. And there you go. You see the dots? Now at least you can see a couple of them there. So you feel free to play around with this property and you will see the difference between one width and the other. Let's just do the third one. So the column rule width for the final one will be let's say 10 pixels for the third one. Okay, so let's hit save, refresh, and there you go. You see what I was talking about is 2 lines, the double. Okay, that's why you will use the column rule width. Okay, moving on to the next property, you will see the column rule color. And I guess that you already know what that is for. It's very simple. It's just to add color to your rule. Okay, so let's just do the first one. We're gonna do a column rule color. Okay, and this one is going to be white. Let's just make it white. Okay, let's hit save. And now going back to our page, refresh. You see, now it changed from black to white, so that you can see how each color will change. I'm simply going to copy this property and I'll make the second example and I'll make the third example right away. Now let's see which colors we have currently here. Let's see, so it's black. Okay, so I think the second one, we're gonna make it, let's make it red, and the other one we're gonna make it let's see, let's also make this white. Well, it was white already. Okay, so let's hit save. Now let's hit refresh and boom, there you go. You see now the second dotted rule is red and the third one is white. Okay, so moving on to the next property, we have the column rule. So this is like a shorthand way to specify all the properties that we have already applied to our paragraph, but in just one line. Okay, so that's what, if you just go ahead and just type column rule, you're going to be able to assign the rule width, you're going to be able to assign the style, and then finally you're going to be able to apply the color in that order. Okay, so it's width, style, and color. So let's go ahead and try it out. We're going to change the, well, not the first one. Let's do the third example. We're going to delete all the style we have given already to this. I'm going to hit save. Going back to our page, let's hit refresh. And as you can see right now, we just totally deleted all the style we've added. And now I'm only going to use the column rule property, which is the shorthand code, right? And we're going to assign the order specified here. First, we're going to input the width. So I want to make this width 5 pixels. Then we are going to assign the style. We want this one to be dotted as well, okay? And then finally, we're going to apply the color. Now I'm going to make this one, let's make this one purple, okay? Now if I hit save, going back to our page, we will see the rule applied in here. Let's hit refresh, and boom, you see it's purple. Now obviously you cannot see it that well, it looks kind of blue, but it's just because of the horrible background that we have for this division. But well, I hope that's pretty self-explanatory for you guys. If you have questions, remember, just drop them in the comment section below and I will be answering them as soon as I can. Okay, so moving on, we are going to be looking at the property called column span. Now what this does is specify how many columns an element should span across. So it's very simple. Let's say that in division number 3 as an example, before the paragraph we have an H1, right? Let's add an H1 here, and I'm just going to type the word test, probably multiple times, okay? There you go. Let's do more, okay. There you go. So now going back to our page, hit refresh. You see how this doesn't look right now? You just see test, and it's all over the place. Now, what you want to do is make this H1 to be on top of your columns, right? To be ordered. You don't want this, to be creating a chaos right in between your columns. So to do that, we have the property called span. Now, let's go ahead and let's apply that to this H1 in particular, okay? So what I'm going to do is use H1, okay? And then I am going to say column span, okay? And in this example, they use all. And that's exactly what we are going to do as well, okay? We want this to span across all 6 columns. So let's do that. Let's put all, let's hit save. Going back to our code, let's hit refresh. And boom, you see? Now that changed the order where it was positioned. Now you can see the H1 on top of all the columns. Obviously it gets till here because we don't have enough text to reach all the way to the 6th column. But if we were to have text, large enough, it'll reach the 6th column. In fact, if you want to see that right now, you can go ahead and just copy this, paste a couple of more times. Let's just do the refresh and boom, you see? It gets all the way across to all 6 columns. So that's how you will order a paragraph on top of your columns. If you were writing something or you were coding something where your client wants to have obviously a header or a title there, and then right below all the columns divided, right? So there you go. That's how you use the column span property. And then finally, one more thing that I think is very useful for you will be the column width. So now talking about the column width property. With this property, you specify a suggested optimal width for the column. So this is automatic. You don't have to use the column count. You don't have to use none of that. What we only use is the column width property. Now, in order for you to take a look at this example, I am going to add a 4th division here. So let's do that. We'll just copy paste this thing right here. And this is going to be example number 4. I am going to delete the H1 we added. Okay, and I'm going to save this. Now going back to our code, let's hit refresh. Okay, so we have now a new division. Now inside of this division, we're going to style example number 4. Okay, so to example number 4, very simple. We're going to use a column width. And this one is going to have 100 pixels, each one of them. So now if I hit save, going back to our code, this paragraph is going to change and is going to be divided for a column of 100 pixels between one and the other. Well, not the gap, but actually the actual width of the column will be 100 pixels. And as you can see, I didn't have to input the column count or gap or whatever. It's going to do it automatically. It's just going to assume that each column will have 100 pixels and that's it. So now I'm going to hit refresh and there you go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns, right? Because we gave it 100 pixels of width to each column. So we don't have to set up here a number. This is going to be based on the size of the screen. It's going to adjust automatically. So if you can see here, if I go ahead and I zoom in, I only see 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Now, if I zoom out, this divides itself into more columns. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you named that. So that's how you use the column width property. So that's it, everybody. That's what you need to know about how to add multiple columns to your layout. And this is very important just in case you are making, I don't know, a website, and let's say that it's a newspaper or a magazine or something like that, and they want, their contents arranged into different type of columns. So I hope this episode today was helpful for all of you. If it was and you like my videos, please make sure to give me a like, because I really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm here. If you are new, you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. And hit that ring bell so that you can get notified every time that I upload a video. And remember that you can always ask Lixi. Bye everyone, and see you again in the next episode.